real clockwork soldier.
Generation Orange in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And share with us your thoughts. And just so we accept any thought that you may have, within reason, of course. But everybody has a voice on this show. It doesn't matter if you're a supporter. Doesn't matter if you're a casual fan. It doesn't matter if you're not a fan at all. Doesn't matter if you even hate soccer. If you hate soccer, call in anyways, because you know what? We might surprise you, and you might surprise us. But let's dive right into it. So the Dynamo on Saturday, Wednesday last week, they faced Real Salt Lake in Real Salt Lake without Alejandro Fuenmayor, which I really wish we had known that for the show on Tuesday, because we would have, talked about that. The MLS Disciplinary Committee, if you didn't know or you didn't hear, the MLS Disciplinary Committee on Wednesday morning announced that Alejandro Fuenmayor would be suspended for 2 games for a tackle that he made on an opposing player during SKC match. Was that SKC?
NYCFC.
No, was it NYCFC? Was it on Via?
No, it was on the one who got injured.
Oh, whatever. Get out of here. Regardless. Anyway, so he was suspended for 2 matches. Like I said, they announced that Wednesday morning. The Dynamo had a match Wednesday evening, making this a whole lot worse of a situation. The Dynamo had like nobody defender-wise on the bench ready to go. So they had to start Jared Watts, who had just come back from RGV after, well, not even starting, after playing like a half of at RGV, or if not even that, to get some match fitness. And it was only exacerbated by the fact that in the first half, Jared Watts got a concussion and wasn't able to finish out the match and had to come out with a concussion. Just so everybody's aware, there are literally 6, I believe right now, currently 6 defenders on the injury report. That doesn't include Machado, who's out for international duty. Let's take a moment to think about what 6 defenders being out for any team means. When you have 6 defenders out from your roster, and also one of the players that was out as a midfielder, Andrew Wenger, who also was playing defense as a defender in the, replacing players that have been out. Anyways, but when you have 6 defenders out, that is more than an entire back line of players that are out injured. That's pretty harsh for any team to deal with, but then to also have more than just an entire back line, but to have 2 additional defenders out, that's just rough, man. I don't care what team you are, that's just hard to deal with. And then, like I said, the 2 midfielders that they had out are like key midfielders. Well, actually, they're 3 midfielders they had out. Andrew Wenger, I don't remember the other one, but Andrew Wenger and Saren and Cabezas. I mean, that's a trio that you really don't want to have missing. At the very least, if Cabezas is going to be out, you want Saren to be in. If Saren's going to be out, you definitely want Cabezas to be in. If you don't have a right back, which right now we currently kind of don't have a right back, Andrew Wenger, you don't want him to be out. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I going into Real Salt Lake, knowing our injury status, knowing Fuenmayor was going to be was suspended for 2 matches, I had a very not good feeling about that match. And sure enough, kind of what I suspected was the case, which was we ended up trotting out Lundqvist for his first start at RSL. And I'll be honest, he looked a little shaky at RSL, and I was a little concerned. But I was also willing to give him the benefit of the doubt because, hey, this was his first match, his first MLS match, his first match in a couple of months, give or take. Full match, I should say. He's going against some pretty speedy guys in RSL. At the same time, he's having to kind of learn on the fly. He's not had a lot of time with his center backs, especially since Jared Watts went out with a concussion. Oh, God. So his partner center back is a center back that he really hadn't played in much time with at all. Anyways, but to kind of summarize that, the real issue right now is simply injuries. We need to get guys back. And unfortunately, there's no break. I mean, we're supposed to be having a World Cup break coming up in a couple weeks. And I'm excited for that because we need those 2 weeks. But that's 2 weeks. We're not talking about like a month off for World Cup. We're talking 2 weeks. That's just 2 matches that essentially we'd be missing. With that being said, my concerns are our guys with concussions, right? Dylan Remick and Jared Watts. My concern is Cabezas came back and immediately picked up a hamstring injury. My concern is Senderos, if he comes back healthy, he's liable to pick up another knock. Our back line is just riddled with guys that are injury prone at this point. And it's like, okay, how do we, what do we do to deal with this? And frankly, I don't know yet. I got some ideas, but, I don't even know what to say. I mean, we played this past week, we played 3 matches in 7 days, and with Saturday's match, it'll be 4 and 14 days. I mean, that's 2 weeks that you've basically played 2 matches per week. And that's pretty, so it's 4 and 14, but then it's 5 if you count USOC, the U.S. Open Cup in 14 days, which that's basically 2.5 matches per week. And that's not including travel time because 2 of those were away. It's rough. I don't care what team you are. It's absolutely rough. It's hard to deal with. And it's exhausting, especially this time of year. That match on Saturday, I don't know about you, but I may have to bring an extra shirt because I may sweat through my first one. Like, legit, it's going to be hot.
Yeah, I mean, I just got here from work. The thermometer showed 97 degrees. It's 7 o'clock.
Yep. I had somebody. I saw somebody on Facebook that posted a picture. It was 100 degrees in their car at 6 p.m. 100 degrees at 6 p.m. I'm like, kickoff's at 7:30. If it's above 92, I think they delay the match for an hour or something like that. So they'll probably delay until it cools off a little bit, just so that they can play the match and not have players falling out from heat stroke.
Yeah.
But don't tell that to Eddie Robinson. We don't want him going on a rant about how players should man up.
That's a completely different subject, but
yeah, especially now that he's assistant coach of the Houston Dash,
which we never touched upon like in depth.
Yeah, we kind of glanced over it very quickly. Again, the phone lines are open. You want to give them that number, Edson? Because I don't think we gave it to him already.
It's actually on your screen right now.
If you're watching.
Yes. If not, it is 956-622-5977.
And Cisco, I know you're driving, so you could definitely call in while you're driving. I know your car is pretty sweet and can handle that. So, I mean, you have no excuse now, right? And if you need us to text you that number so you can just touch it and call it, we'll do that.
Thank you, Callo. Thank you for putting it on the chat. 956-622-5977.
Did he put that on the YouTube chat or the Discord chat? Oh, nice. Thank you, Callo. Hey, I appreciate you being that engaged. That's awesome. Okay, so what else to talk about at these matches, man?
Let me go ahead and just start
I didn't get to the second match. Hold on, wait. Just one second. Let me get to the second match. So that was the first match, was away at RSL. Then it was away at Montreal on Saturday. So we had Wednesday and then Saturday. And that was in Montreal. So you go from Real Salt Lake in Utah to Montreal, in Canada. Mm-hmm. I felt like with Fuenmayor being out, with Lundqvist probably getting a second start, which he did, with what felt like really a makeshift backline center back pairing with Leonardo. And who was the other center back? I don't even remember.
Kevin.
Oh, that's right. Kevin Garcia. Yeah. And I'll be honest, Kevin Garcia played good enough for me that I can tolerate him as a backup. Not a starter, but as a backup in MLS.
I definitely agree.
I'm okay with that. I actually would prefer to see him over Leonardo. Leonardo is a gaping, glaring hole in that back line for me every time he plays. We always surrender at least one goal when he's on the pitch. At least one. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so we went into that match. We didn't score a goal. It was a 1-0 defeat. We scored goals again, or we scored a goal against RSL. We did not score a goal against Montreal. Mm-hmm. We tried. We had plenty of chances on goal, and we created some decent opportunities. I wouldn't say great. And to be fair, that Montreal lineup looked about as makeshift as it could be. Elise started at the top of the formation, and out wide we had Alvarez and Memo. Memo looked okay. Alvarez, where was he on the pitch? I don't even know. And I think that's just a case of, honestly, Alvarez is just he's one of those guys that he's aged out of his capabilities. He's lost that touch. He's lost that pace. He's lost that capability to play at a high level because we've seen it every time he's tried. He's just not up to par at this point. But
it's like the league just blew past him already.
Well, and like I said, I think some of that is age and just the wear and tear on the body and that sort of thing. And then, our midfielders, we had Boney, Alexander, and then who was the other one? I don't remember.
Eric Bird.
Oh, that's Eric Bird. Eric Bird played out of his mind. That may have been one of the best games I've actually ever seen him play, RTV included. And like I said, our backline was makeshift, and then Joe in goal. Joe had a couple of decent saves. Nothing really super spectacular in my mind. But RSL definitely created the chances, the one chance, really two chances they needed. Montreal created the chance they needed to create. And there were a couple other chances that went awry. They looked like they were struggling from some of the same issues we were, either injuries piling up, or just guys being tired. And being a midweek or being an end of the week match on a short game week, that's just rough for everybody. Go ahead.
I do want to bring up, speaking of Eric Bird,
Birdman.
The Birdman fly. So one of my biggest gripes when he was with RGV last year was that they placed him in central defensive midfielder. Mm-hmm. He did not look comfortable there. If I'm not mistaken, they played him in a defensive midfield position against Montreal. Am I correct?
It was kind of like a center mid. He wasn't expected to cover the back line. Boney was really covering the back line.
Okay,
for that match. I
so
was watching,
that's
actually.
that's the difference.
So he was expected to play that pivot center mid role that gets the ball forward, that is that kind of link up between the back line and the front line.
Yes.
Because I watched, and Boney would tend to stay back, and if Boney went forward, then Bird would come back. So they kind of shared the duties, but it seemed like for the most part, Bird was the one actually kind of
commanding of the
forward.
midfield.
Yeah, he was the one kind of taking that center circle and forward, and Boney would take the center circle and back if needed.
Yeah, and I think that's why we see the Eric Bird being the Eric Bird that he is, because he is, and I've said it many times, he is more of an offensive-minded player.
Absolutely.
And then also Lundqvist. I know many people have said it in the Discord chat and on social media that he looks good. It's just he looks kind of awkward because he's not in his natural position since he is extremely left-footed. There was actually one play where he went past the Montreal defender, like going one-on-one against the keeper, but he had to like lose time to place the ball so comfortable for his left foot, and even that shot went close.
Yeah, well, there was that one where he ran by the defender who went in for a tackle, and he bounced the ball past the defender.
That's the one.
Oh,
That's
that
the
run
one.
was amazing. The shot was not so great, but that run was amazing.
Yeah.
But I also feel like A, he's being played out of position. B, he's just got to he needs time in the league. He needs time with these players. You develop a certain chemistry the more you play with people, and the more you play in a specific position. You start to understand where players are going to be. There were times when his passes wouldn't quite connect with the player. And I think that's just it's one of those things that just comes with time on the pitch and time in that position. But yeah, I thought he actually played, really, in my opinion, one of the better right backs that we've seen this year outside of Andrew Wenger. And frankly, to be honest, I am content with him taking over for Beasley in the long term, and actually probably sooner rather than later. Beasley, the last couple of games, has had a couple of lapses that have led to goals in one way, shape, or form. In the Montreal match, the single goal was the result of a failed clearance. Cisco has tried to say that failed clearance began with a failed clearance by Kevin Garcia, which technically it did. But that failed clearance went far enough forward that another player was able to create a tackle and get the ball loose. But then Montreal immediately picked it back up and pushed it back in, and that's when Beasley had the bad clearance that didn't get nearly far enough that ended up moving out wide to Vargas, who then shot it over past Joe. And to be fair to Joe, there's nothing he was doing with that ball.
Yeah,
that was such a great shot from where he was.
So I managed to see that goal because like I was at my cousin's house and like everybody wanted to see the Mexico game.
Oh.
So I managed to see that. I managed to see what goal, and I was like mad. I was like, man, they scored on us again. And my cousin was like, dude, why are you like? You can't get mad at a goal like that. It's just beautiful.
Absolutely, yeah. No, and that's how I feel. So to be fair, that's how I feel about a lot of MLS goals when I watch them against the Dynamo. Either it's a really bad error by the Dynamo that leads to the goal, or it's just an absolute world beater of a goal. There's very rare times where we see dribblers or something like that go in. Mm-hmm. With that being said, let's actually go to a break. We've hit a 15-minute mark for some discussion. When we come back, we're going to talk about who's been our standout players of the season so far, who we've seen that's been improving, who kind of deciding on Dynamo player form. And then maybe some players that we feel like are declining, steadily declining at this point, and some different ideas on how to improve this team overall. So let's go to break. Say it.
There we go.
I don't have to be the one to welcome everybody back every time.
Welcome back, everybody.
You're listening to Generation Orange on YouTube because KTXF Sam broadcaster crap. Anyways, so before we went to break, we mentioned we were going to talk about who our Dynamo player standouts for the season so far have been, who we feel are the improving players, and who we feel are the players that are either not living up to expectations or declining. So I'm going to let you start with, actually, I'll go ahead and read out my standouts. I only have 4 right now. And I may add, no, it's going to, actually, I'm going to add one. No, I'm going to leave it at 4. I'm kind of going back and forth. Oh, no, yeah, okay, 4. Oh, no, there is one I do need to add on here. So standouts, Elise, obviously that's a given. Kyoto, that's a given. Eric Bird, Boniak Garcia. And number 5 is Andrew Wenger. I'm sad he is injured because the form that he was in at outside back before getting injured was pretty solid. I mean, really was. So give me, give me your standout players of the season so far.
Elise, Kyoto, Boney, Andrew Wenger, and that's pretty much it. Because Eric Bird, we've only seen him for 1 game.
Yeah, and Cabezas we only saw for really 1 in
like half.
Well, we saw half and half, so 1 full match at this point.
Yes.
Which is such a freaking shame. Okay, so I can see that. I don't have any problem with any of those. So improving players. These are players that haven't quite reached that standout spot. Maybe Bird should be here type of thing. So players that I consider that are improving: Lundqvist, Tomas, Fuenmayor, and that's really the extent of that list.
Yeah, Eric Bird.
Oh, Memo needs to be on that list.
Yeah. Eric Bird. I think if I were to add somebody, it would have to be
maybe a goalkeeper. No, not Willis. He's not improving per se.
No, and then Seitz has been on the bench as well.
Yeah, which we'll talk about that here in a minute too.
Actually, I can't add anybody here.
Isn't that just it's frustrating almost, isn't it? Maybe Machado. Not really improving though. I mean, he's kind of been a standout.
He's just been consistent.
Yeah.
I think that's the
But
word.
that's what you want in a center back. And if if you take out his outliers of playing outside back, then he's really been very consistent in his form. The problem is when he has to play outside back. I think that's when he struggles. All right, so then we'll get to the players that we consider are steadily declining. These are not players that have had one bad match. These are ones that we feel like have had consistently bad matches. So I'm going to get some flack for this first one. DeMarcus Beasley. He has had a couple of howlers, in my opinion, that he just was not up to it. And one, I feel like it was because it was an early match early in the season where he just got burned multiple times because he was going against really fast players. And then there was another this past week in Montreal. I just felt like his howler clearing that ball in Montreal just cost us that goal, and he just didn't really provide anything going forward, in my opinion. Leonardo, frankly, he's been a liability the entire season, and I think the only reason he's maintained is because he's not as injury prone as Senderos.
So it's interesting to see because I just saw a Blues fan say that he went from adequate starter to revolving door.
Leonardo. Leonardo?
Yes.
Absolutely. Yes. He is not wrong on that. Next on my list of players that are declining is Mauro Manotas. I have been very displeased with his form this season, and I said I wanted to give him until about the World Cup, about this point, to see if he could straighten it out. He hasn't, in my opinion. So how do we go from here? I think we need to see Mac get more minutes. I think we need to find a striker in the upcoming transfer window, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit.
Sure.
And I think we need to find a true number one. And I think the real kick in the pants for him was at least starting at striker this past match in Montreal. That was basically Wilmer, in my opinion, saying to Mauro, look, you think that your job is secure because you don't have anybody competing with you really, but I've got options. I don't have to play you. And I'm hoping that he gets that message. Even when he came in as a sub, he looked decent, but he still was not. He looked out of the match, like he wasn't in the match. And then next on this list, and I don't think you're going to have any argument with this, and I don't think many people that are in the YouTube chat or the Discord are going to argue with this one. Eric Alexander, majorly declining. I think he had a couple of good matches to start the season, but really, actually, I felt like he had a good first match to start the season, and then once Cabezas was out, his form was never the same. And I feel like that's kind of how he was last season. Like when Cabezas was in there, he was great. When Cabezas wasn't in there, he was missing.
It just seems like that Eric Alexander is that kind of player that he's got to have somebody superior to him alongside him for you to see his best. It's like he can't. I don't think he can handle right now the pressure of being the main man in the specific position.
He's expected to be a primary pivot point, and while he can do that, when there's not a superior defensive option near him or around him, it forces him to have to track too much, and he's not fit enough for that. I have watched him just wilt in the 60th, 70th minute repeatedly this season.
Yeah, I have seen many goals where Eric Alexander, and I think the second goal that Real Salt Lake scored on us, where he just like flat out ball watched.
Yeah,
you know, where the attacker like receiving the ball and then shooting towards goal. Like he was just there, like just looking at him.
Absolutely, 100%. And then my final declining player is Arturo Alvarez, who, frankly, I don't even know if I can say declining. I don't think we ever got anything. I mean, declining from preseason maybe, but I think that was because he was playing against USL competition. Do I think he maybe gets a start on tomorrow? I do, because I think Wilmer knows that maybe he needs some confidence back. Needs to know, hey, you can still do it kind of thing. And I do think he maybe scores a goal in this match, but I don't think Wilmer starts him after this anyway, so I don't think it matters. So those are my players that are declining. You'll notice my list that's the primary bulk.
I'm going to have to add one more person, Darwin Sarin.
I'm torn on him because he's had a couple of bad matches, and he also had a couple of good matches, and they were all boom, 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 one right after the other, which doesn't help.
I think he's had, like, in my opinion, he's had more bad matches than good matches. Plus, his mistakes have cost us dearly.
That's true, and I think part of it too is his weaknesses are highlighted by how good Cabezas was last year, and how different this team is when Cabezas is on the pitch, and we can physically see it. When you can physically see a difference, you tend to view the inferior player as substantially more inferior than the superior player as substantially more superior. That's just kind of how that works. All right. Well, we've talked about those. If you guys have
Okay, Francisco, this is your you were right moment. He's like, people give me shit for saying Morrow wasn't in, and here we are.
No, Cisco, you're right. I can admit every once in a while that Cisco is absolutely right, way more often than I'm right, and he never lets me forget it either. With that, we're gonna actually go to break. But if you guys do have your own lists of who are your standouts this season, who's been improving and who's declining, and you think we're completely off our rockers, hit us up on Twitter. That's at Gen Orange Radio, at Gen GEN Orange. You can spell orange. Radio, you can spell radio on Twitter. If you can't, you can probably not listen to the show because we'll use big words and confuse you. But with that said, we're going to go to break. But yeah, if you guys have your list that you want to share with us, hit us up on Twitter or in the YouTube chat or Discord chat, and we'll be happy to hit you up as well. And then also before we go to break, the phone lines are open. I am very sad that nobody has called in yet. I think we're talking really good stuff.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. You're just transitioning nice and smooth. Okay, I see. So yeah, anyways, guys, call in. You got the phone number. If you don't, Edson will give it to you when we get back from break.
We'll be right back.
I can feel it rushing through my veins. Your love's the only drug I know. But we've been playing the hand now we're dealt, so we can light it up. I know that we can make it through the night, but I can feel it for you.
And we are back. You're listening to Generation Orange on YouTube. And
later on, when I get to it eventually.
SoundCloud and
yes.
yeah. Eventually we'll have Stitcher, and I mean we have Stitcher set up, and we actually have SoundCloud set up.
Yeah, I just need the login info.
I have a logo now, don't I? Crap, I don't have that excuse anymore. Okay, yeah, I'll get it set up. That's a tomorrow task. So before we went to break, we said we were going to talk about what? I don't think we actually teased up what we were about to talk about, did we?
So they wanted us, Cisco wanted us to talk about...
We're not to that yet. Well, I'll get to that in the next segment. Cisco's going to have to wait.
We were talking about declining players.
Correct. Okay, so we know that there are issues. We know that there are a lot of injury issues. So the question is, there's another player that's declining that I forgot about, Senderos, because he hasn't played but maybe one match this season, maybe two, due to injury. So another one of those declining players. So with injuries and all the injury concerns and players declining and old players getting older and Morrow playing like crap, the question I have is how can the Dynamo address these particular issues? There's a couple of different ways. The first and most important, on July 10th, MLS is expanding a new option for transfers known as MLS Youth Transfer Fund. That's not a joke. That's exactly what they've called it, the YTF.
Well, it wasn't. At least it's not a W.
Yeah, whoever came up with that one was intelligent. Anyway, so this is intended for players under 23 years of age, so basically a young DP level. $2.8 million per team available for this, which is basically a DP level. That's a lot of money for a young player. So MLS does still want to get younger. The Dynamo are the type of team who will absolutely take advantage of this opportunity. They love young players. They love this type of player, and I'm sure they have their eye on a specific one of these types of players already. Again, that becomes available on July 10th. If you're wondering, July 10th also happens to be when the summer transfer window opens and teams can officially sign players in the summer window. Yay! That's a month away. That's really freaking close right now. Like, holy crap, July is less than a month away now. The summer transfer window is open from July 10th through August 8th. So let's talk about types of players that the Dynamo could look to potentially sign. We have depth at center mid. We have depth at attacking mid because Boney's, as has been said, the revelation of Boney at this point. We have depth at winger. We've got Memo who can play out wide. Maybe that's about the extent of that. Maybe we do need a winger depth. Wanger, the winger, is also available there. We have outside back depth all of a sudden when Wanger gets back and when AJD is healthy and when Remick no longer has a concussion. We have no center back depth until players get back from injury. And then we're okay, and get back from international duty, and then we're okay. But that's a position I can definitely see the Dynamo potentially spending some of that youth money on. Fuenmayor already kind of fits the bill for that, but just imagine him being paired with another young player, same caliber, same type of player.
So you're going to see this transitioning from like getting rid of the older players.
Basically, the oldest players would be gone. Yes.
Yeah, Leonardo, Beasley.
Machado would still, I think, be a starter there, but you would have the option to play either of the two young center backs alongside them.
No, definitely. So, but like for example, like other players.
I mean, we already got younger at left back with. I mean, we tried to do it with Remick, but now we've definitely done it with Lundqvist.
Yes.
I feel like we're going to continue to see that trend going further forward, especially with this youth transfer fund availability this season. And I don't know if that continues into next season or how that's going to work after that, but it's interesting to see them open up an option like that, considering it kind of runs antithesis of how they've done most of their stuff all along. So really areas of concern that I think the Dynamo maybe want to consider signing a player is striker and
Definitely.
center back, and that's really about it. Because I feel like we have depth everywhere else that we need. I feel like we're okay everywhere else. But I feel like those two areas are really right now our primary concerns, striker being the glaring concern. And to be fair with tomorrow a little bit too, this system, it provides opportunities, but it's not necessarily a feast or famine type of system. You need a consistent goal scorer, and I don't know what he's struggling with right now, but he is struggling with something. So another forward striker to just push him. I think Matt could be that, but I also feel like Wilmer doesn't have enough trust in Matt because of his age. And so I think that they probably try to bring in a veteran striker, somebody South American, maybe Central American, that's got some experience on him. And, maybe they don't light the world on fire type of player, but enough that they can push Morrow for that starter role and keep Morrow on his toes and, maybe supplant him for a little while, kind of like Kubo did for a little while there. Speaking of Kubo, he just got transferred to another team.
Cholos de Tijuana.
Bad. He got transferred to the Goats, which is really funny because Chivas USA, they're not the Goats?
No, they're Cholos Squinkles. They're the hairless dogs
Oh, okay, whatever.
of Tijuana.
Yeah, okay, whatever.
Cholos Squinkles.
Yeah, whatever. So he got traded to another team in Mexico, but I laughed because he's falling even further from grace. It's great. It's because Kubo sucks and nobody listened to me for a while, and I was like, no, really, guys, Kubo sucks. No, he doesn't suck. He's doing great. No, he sucks. Stop it. He sucks. Anyway, sorry, that's a personal thing.
So Blues fan brings up a point about Morrow, and he says, I think the problem which I will address is that Morrow is not suited for a central striker.
He's not suited for an attacking mid. He's not suited for... He may be suited as a paired striker. But even that I kind of question a little bit because he's not good with the ball at his feet necessarily. He's kind of reminds me of a younger, thinner Bruin, to be totally honest with you. He has a lot of chances go wide or go over the bar.
And I think that's also a problem with Mauro Manotas because he doesn't have the physical presence that other strikers in the MLS have, much less who he's going up against in the center back positions.
Yeah, especially that. And the problem is that the more that he struggles, the more weight it puts on Kyoto and Elise.
Yes.
We've been able to mask a lot of his issues, or we were able to last year by having Kyoto and Elise out wide, opposite one another. And we saw it this year when Kyoto and Elise started lighting it up on fire together consistently, match after match. How much better Morrow looked consistently. And I think that does help because it pulls those center backs off just a little bit and gives him a little bit more space to run into. But I think this system really needs not necessarily a physical presence, but somebody who's not going to be bodied off the ball consistently in the middle of the pitch.
Yes.
And somebody who aerially is going to be able to win some duels for us would be good. I feel like we lose a lot of those balls that just get launched forward consistently, and that's really true out wide too. But Kyoto and Elise have significantly improved in that area this season.
Yes.
They've won quite a few headers. I think they've worked on that in the offseason, or they've worked on that with Honduras, one of the two, because it's a significant improvement. And so I'd like to see, whatever. I strongly feel like we're going to get another striker. Whatever that striker may be, he needs to have those qualities. Because
I just feel with the type of play that Elise and Kyoto have, you have to have a strong target man in the box in order to
So what you're saying is we need to trade for Zlatan Ibrahimovic.
Not necessarily Zlatan, but...
Why not? He's a TAM player, and now you can trade for TAM players. You couldn't trade for TAM players before.
I just don't think he'd be good for the locker room.
You're absolutely right. Well, I don't know. He might get along with Kyoto. I would have to go to every practice because that there would be at least one fight, at least one.
Yeah, we want to try to avoid that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, but, if they do it in practice, it's better than doing it on the pitch. So I'm okay with that.
I would probably get somebody with.
Give me a striker. And if you say Kubo, I'm punching you in the face.
Kubo Torres. No, I'm kidding. Gignac. Andre Pierre Gignac.
I can see that. That makes
Not
sense.
necessarily him.
Yeah, but in that
someone
same
like
type
him.
of mold. Yeah, in that same type of player. I could
someone
see
that not only can do a target man, but whenever he has, like, for example, if he's not getting balls, rather than just isolating himself, he'll bounce back and try to help with the playmaking.
Well, yes. Morrow has been doing that. Give Morrow credit. He's been coming deeper and deeper to try to get that ball. The problem is when he does that, the ball always makes it out to Elise or Kyoto, and by that point, he's out of the play.
Yes.
I don't
Callow.
know. You know, I don't know who they find. I don't know who they sign, but I suspect it'll be a bigger striker. It'll be a bigger forward. What did he say?
So he's like, I hear Giles Barnes is available.
I mean, you laugh, but Giles Barnes would be that perfect type of player for that position. Really, he would.
I just don't believe in that second chat, or what do they call it? The sequels are
Any better than the first times?
yeah.
Well, I mean, you know, you say that, but that sequel from Donovan was pretty. I'm just kidding. Useless.
Well,
Is
you
that a
mean
good
like
word?
part 3?
Useless.
Was it like part 3 already?
You know the type of player that we need, and I'm going to regret saying this because I don't like this type of player in general, but it's a Clint Dempsey type. That's what we need, is a Clint Dempsey type. Now, I'm not saying we go out and get Clint Dempsey, but that's the type of player that we need in that role.
Hey, who know? I mean, he's from Texas.
He's from Nacogdoches. He's not that far away, but I don't think the Dynamo are willing to spend that kind of money to bring
That
him
is
here,
true.
because
We
he's not gonna
always keep
take
on
teams.
coming back to that point.
Well, and it's a fair point. All right, so we're going to go ahead and go to break again.
Not
Holy
a-
crap, this is running. No, dude, we've been talking for 10 minutes now.
Holy.
So we're gonna go. Yeah, we're gonna go to break.
Are
No,
you
I'm
sure?
keeping track of my time right here, man. I'm keeping track of it. We've been.
No, because Kalos, or actually Blues fan says that the lines aren't on. I'm like, oh, hold on.
Oh man, he
Oh,
wanted
no,
to call in.
that's.
We didn't test Callow. That's his fault. And my
No,
fault.
it should still show.
All right, go ahead and call Callow. The line is open for you, my man.
Yes.
And if that doesn't work, he'll pull it up on his computer somehow. We'll make it work. We want to get your call because you got incredibly important things to say. I
We
like
can
that
just go
background,
ahead
dude.
and do this, do this segment until the top of the hour.
Okay, sure. Let me pull up the notes that I had then so that we can continue this segment until the top of the hour. Okay, well, actually, this is perfect because during the break, Cisco asked that we talked about, and I guess the chat and YouTube chat in general, asked that we talk about why Boney has been a revelation this year. Like, what is different about Boney? What's different about the way the team is playing compared to how they were playing before with Boney? And I think the answer is pretty simple. When Boney's been on the pitch, he's been in one of two roles. He's either been that true attacking midfielder.
You got him.
We got him? Oh, he's okay. Is it that one or is it that one?
It should be number 5. Can you hear us? Hello?
Yes, I can actually hear.
Hey. What's up, Callow?
Hey, Blues.
Blues,
No,
whoever
not
you are.
Stella, actually.
Whatever, whoever.
Wow, that lack
Sorry.
of disrespect, right? That lack of respect right there.
Well,
I'm
one's
still very
Canadian.
lightheaded, so I will let this slide.
One's Canadian and one's a Chelsea fan. I mean, you take your pick. Either way, you're screwed. So
That's true. That is true.
you know
man.
the type of hold on, I'm gonna say this and he's gonna laugh. You know the type of player that would actually really fit this role? Fernando Torres.
God.
win.
It'll just be the same thing at Mauro. It's just a little taller. That's
Yeah,
it.
pretty much.
It's not
No,
gonna
you're
work.
not wrong. That was a joke. All right, go ahead, Blues fan. Give us your hot take.
Well, it's not even a hot take. I'm just going to stop this Mauro slander that's going on in this whole thing. Last year, when Mauro played, it wasn't in one specific role. He was moved around, and it was easier for him to get the chances in a counter-attacking system. This year, with the more possession-based system, it's tougher for him to get the chances because he has to push forward. The way that the mids work, it's more of a mid-3. Sometimes I don't even really see it as a pivot. I just see it like 3 flat midfielders.
Mm-hmm.
So for him to have to come in for the space, there's nobody that makes the run ahead of him to give him a chance to run back.
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
I think his lack of production isn't for lack of trying. It's just not his kind of game. His game is always going to be meant to break and to score off of sheer speed and maybe adequate finishing this year because it's not here as much as it was last year, where he would come in and be the last runner into the ball.
Yeah, and I think some of that is also teams are playing the Dynamo differently now. You look at the way that teams are kind of they're tending more towards pressing out wide, which you think that would actually leave Mauro open. But what we're seeing is outside backs are going out wide and center backs are staying more narrow. So you're ending up with these gaps in between where our players are, which it opens up running lanes, but Morrow's not making those same runs. He's not seeing those lanes open up, and he tends to be shadowed by a center back. And even in some cases, like Portland, he's being shadowed by a D mid. And so the back line doesn't even really have to worry about Morrow because he doesn't even get to that level.
Which it could also be the fact that he's instructed to stay central. If he's not central, then there's no opposition through. Again, I think we've had this conversation before where, again, a number 8 or someone that could come in and maybe open the space out in the gap to give Morrow a stance would be beneficial. So with the way this team is structured, there's not an 8 out there. There's Tomas who could play deep and play forward, but it's not the same as an 8 who can exploit space and make the runs while Morrow is trapped inside and Elisa Kyoto are being not only single covered, it's more of even the defensive mids are willing to push in to cover Elisa Kyoto. And then the two center defensive, the center backs are just covering Morrow up and bottling him in there.
Yeah.
The touches let him down, but not even for lack of trying. They're right there, like every time, like right behind him, which makes it tough for him to try.
No, and you're right. And I think the type of player that I say that we have enough depth to not necessarily need to go after a center mid, but I do think that Dynamo could use a true 8. I think your types of players that would have been a Charlie Ward, potentially an Eric Bird, players that can be that pivot point that can help move the ball up faster. I feel like that has been a struggle. We saw with Kevin Garcia in this past match against Montreal. He has really good service out of that center back position, which is something we don't have with Leonardo at all, and we really don't have much with Machado. Machado is good at going forward, with the ball at his feet, but he's not good at necessarily giving the long pass and breaking players or breaking defenses apart. A player that I would love to see an 8. The problem with getting a true 8 is that they're not cheap. And by not cheap, I mean they're probably the second most expensive position on the field, which the most expensive being a true attacking mid, who's a good quality attacking mid. Now, it's entirely possible that they use this money to go find a center mid. I feel like the Dynamo think they have that in Eric Alexander, which I don't think they're necessarily wrong. The problem is Eric Alexander requires a Juan David Cabezas behind him to provide that cover for him. And I still think that
leaves it's not even that. Well, Alexander, when I've seen him play all of this year, there's just something about him that's a little bit different. He's better with the ball. He's better having the ball off, but all he is, for me, is just a water carrier. Carries the ball. But that's what
I'm saying, though, right?
But he doesn't present a factor for anybody else. Like, if you see him with the ball, you don't have to push him. He's just going to pass it, and then you just cover the set, and then he's just stuck with, do I try to get it wide? Do I just play it back?
Yeah.
Which doesn't provide him another option to push him mid out and maybe get him a chance to pass it to Manotas who might make a run, or at least or Kyoto cutting in. It's just that kind of situation for Alexander that I don't feel as if he's adequate enough for that role.
Yeah, if I'm going to get a player in that same position, I want somebody who can go and switch out wide to provide that cover. A player that actually, God, I hate that I'm about to say this because I didn't like this player towards the end of the season. A player that would have been perfect in that position and who was perfect in that position is an Alex. I miss having an Alex because he was really good at breaking teams down on the medium to long passes. He was good at the short passes. He was good at retaining the ball in possession. Defensively, he was a liability, but you're not expecting Alexander necessarily to be your defensive cover, especially in the long term where you're expecting Juan David Cabezas to be that defensive cover. And I think you're right. I mean, I do think Eric Alexander, when Juan David Cabezas gets back, can be a much better player. But until then, his weaknesses, his vulnerabilities have definitely shown. The chinks in his armor have definitely become very clear, and it sucks. Now, a player that I do kind of wonder now at this point maybe could be that type of player would be Boniat Garcia. He's had a couple of very good games in a row, and I think that he's improved dramatically. He's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but he's definitely improved, and I think he's learning that central position a lot more. He's used to playing that out wide midfielder, and I think it's different. The only drawback is he's old. I mean, he's hitting that age mark where his pace is dwindling. I'd like to see an 8 brought in that was a little bit younger, A player that can handle that type of situation, our type of system, that can kind of unlock those defenses from the midfield, the center circle and on up through the attacking field and maybe even a little deeper than the center circle, but not much. And then also provide the long ball on occasion too. I mean, Alex was very good at picking out that wide pass every once in a while and hitting an Elise or Kyoto in stride so that they could have a breakaway chance on goal. That type of player. And, if we could find one of those that had some defensive capabilities, like unlike Alex, I would be content with the player signing like that, even if we didn't improve at striker, because I do feel like if we get a player like that allows us to kind of mask Morrow's weaknesses, which are, actually hitting the goal on frame and on target. But anything else before we have to cut you loose?
No, I mean, the only thing from out, it's not him. I think it's a confidence thing, but it's also the fact of a different role. That's kind of tough on a striker, and we've seen him when he started after, I'm trying to remember, after he left, and we had our new manager, just our caretaker, come in, and he played Manotas. He had dry spells, and he managed to overcome some of them. But switching tactics for him is something that he's always had a bit of a weakness for. He's not adaptable. He's more of a one-plane player, which kind of might be to his detriment.
Yeah, he's a one-track player. No, you're absolutely right. One tactic player, if you will, one style player. You're not wrong. Oh, God, is that a crack on my phone? Sorry. Didn't see that before. No, you're right in that, though. And that's something that can be, I think, worked on. He's young enough that could still be worked out. My concern, though, is we've seen it now a few different times. And it's definitely something that, I said this at the beginning of the season. I said it in the offseason. I'm going to give him through the World Cup. He's got one more match to impress me, and then it's World Cup time. And, at this point, I just want to see somebody else be given that opportunity, bench Morrow for a couple of matches. Yeah, it's going to hurt his confidence. It's going to hurt his ego a little bit. But sometimes some strikers need that. They need to be pushed. And I feel like he was as good at the end of the last season as he was because Kubo was pushing him at the beginning of the season and forcing him to have to up his game. And I feel like right now he's been able to be comfortable. And sometimes you have to make strikers uncomfortable to get the most out of them. And Wilmer's good at doing that, but I don't know if there's any competition available right now for him to do that. Anyways, Blues, thank you very much for the call. We appreciate it. We got to let you go. We got to go to a break. Again, thank you very much for the call. I was about to say something else and I forgot, so that's why I had to repeat that. Yes, the phone lines are still open, though. Bye, Blues, whoever you are. Man!
Take care.
No, I caught myself. Thanks, Blues. Have a good one, man.
Take care. You too.
When we get back from the break, we're going to talk about the Dash. We're going to talk about Dash.
But now we're going down. Whoa. Picking up the pieces that we left here. We just left here.
No way of knowing where to go. Where to go. No way of knowing where to go. No way of knowing where to go. No way of knowing where to go. Go. Where to go.
All my senses told me it's the wrong way to go, but I don't know if it's worth it. Oh, it's always the wrong day to show, and I don't know
Where to go now, go now, go now. Where to go now, go now, go now. No way of knowing where to go now, go now, go now. Where to go now, go now, go now.
And we're back. You're listening to Generation Orange on YouTube because Sim Broadcasters crap. Thanks, Spatial. By the way, you guys are terrible. So before I went to break, we said we're going to talk about the Dash. So I think we need to give the Dash some credit. They've been playing really well the last 4 matches, however long it's been. They drew the North Carolina Courage here in Houston, 1-1. Like I said at the top of the show, credit to Kaleo High with the lone Dash goal. Her finish was fantastic. I mean, it wasn't a laser by any stretch, but it was an outside of the boot shot, and it was well placed. What's incredible about this goal is not the goal itself. It is the assist from the goalkeeper, Jane Campbell. It is not often in soccer that you see an assist come from a goalkeeper, especially in the women's game. So that's pretty awesome. And then also the Dash carried on the awesomeness by announcing, / NWSL announcing, that Rachel Daly was named Player of the Month for NWSL, which is incredible. And not surprising that she's been on a tear. I know surprising to us because, once they moved her from outside back to forward again, she suddenly found her form. Who would have thought that she would find form once she moved from outside back to forward, her natural position? She is a really great player. If you are a Dynamo fan and you have not had a chance to make it out to a Dash match to watch her play, forget the rest of the ladies who are incredible on their own right, but if you go to see any one player play on that team, you need to go see Rachel Daly play. She is that good. She is worth the price of admission. She just does things on that pitch, and she is going to be one of those players that just runs until she can't run anymore. She's going to give it her all, and that's going to be the case match in and match out. So your thoughts, Edson, on the Houston Dash, which you're totally not prepared for, but that's okay.
So it's interesting to see how the Dash have gone on and improved from the, I guess you can say, the little bit of a disorganization in the beginning of the season. Having to play Rachel Daly at a right back position.
Left back. No, she was playing right back. You're right. Right back. Sorry.
And she did okay for what it was worth, but her best play is up on top.
Absolutely. You took one of your best offensive pieces and you put them in a role that they're not as comfortable at. Now, she played remarkably well there for being a forward, but she definitely lost, or the offense definitely lost a step when she moved back to the outside back. I also want to note, while you're on that topic, that what allowed her to make that move back forward was the trade for Alyssa Chapman back on May 10th. And, we had Alyssa Chapman last season, and Chappie is a Wolverine. And I said that last year on the Peel, that Chappie is a Wolverine. She's that type of player. She will not back down from a fight.
Now, another interesting thing about how good this tie is, and the fact that we were leading this game, that we went up against the North Carolina Courage.
Top of the league.
Top of the league with 29 points.
Yeah, the next closest
is Seattle Reign with 18.
Yeah, not even close.
Yeah.
9-point lead on them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible. I saw that, and I was just amazed. North Carolina are absolutely far and away the best team in NWSL right now. And on that note, by the way, while we're talking Dash, the Mix Zone podcast, the newest episode of that, will come out either later tonight or tomorrow. If it already hasn't released, I haven't checked to see. Jen Cooper, the keeper, had a discussion with one of the team cover guys there in North Carolina, and they talked about this match, and they talked about the Courage and how good they are, and you definitely want to give that a listen. It was interesting to get an opportunity to preview that chat for sure, so definitely make sure you go and check out the Mix Zone podcast. You will not be disappointed, even if you're just a men's soccer fan.
Yeah, no, definitely. Now, another thing to point out, yes, the Houston Dash are in 7th place right now, but right now the difference between 2nd place and 7th, it's just 4.
Yeah,
4
I was going to say
points.
it's less than 5 points.
Yeah,
It's
4
extremely
points.
tight, and there's still plenty of matches left. How many matches have they played right now?
Right now the Dash have played 12.
12. So there's still 6 matches left. I mean, that's not 6. Sorry, there's Oh, maybe there's only 2 matches left. No.
Probably.
No, there's
4, no?
Yeah, 4 matches. That's what I was trying to think of.
Now, the interesting to point out, like, for example, second place Seattle Reign has only played 10.
Yeah.
So they have 6.
But if you look at the team that is in 4th place, which is the
Portland Thorns.
they have played 1 more match than the Dash have played.
One match less.
1 less?
Yes.
I thought there was a team that had played more matches.
No. The Houston Dash, the Red Stars, and the Courage have all played 12.
1 extra match. Okay.
Yeah.
I must be thinking of the Dynamo then, which wouldn't surprise me either. I think the Dynamo have played 1 less match than the team in 6th. That's what it is. Than the team in 6th place in the West. So they have an easy opportunity to catch back up. One other thing, while we're talking about women's soccer in general, and man, this is going to be a super short segment, but that's okay. I kind of planned it that way, kind of, sort of. Edson's going to tweet out a link real quick. So I got hit up by one of my good friends from the San Diego soccer. Actually, she attends University of San Diego.
Posted.
Thank you. She attends University of San Diego, and she is a team manager for the University of San Diego women's soccer team, and they are running a fundraiser right now to gather funds for trips and various activities that they do throughout the year. Do us a favor, go support soccer, go support women's soccer, and donate a little bit. Every little bit counts as they get closer, and if actually they get enough money out of the donations this year, our good friend Bianca, will get to travel with the team this year to go to away matches. She also covers the Dash. If you ever have a chance to read up on Vavel, I don't know if she can pronounce it later, but she covers the Dash for Vavel, and she's in the press booth whenever she's here in Houston and can attend those matches. And she's just a wealth of information and a really good person. And so, do me a favor, personally do me a favor, do her a favor, do women's soccer a favor, do the University of San Diego a favor, and go support their team. They definitely deserve it. They're doing everything they can, and we should support them however we can. And with that, we'll get a break, because that was our Dash segment. Eventually, he wasn't prepared.
Telling me it's so clear to see. Well, it's so easy. Look at you and I just know, but it's not easy to step aside and let you know. It's never easy to say a thing that might be a whole different story, whole different story now. It's a whole different story now. It's a whole different story now. Time always catches up on those who run, but we have time to change what we've begun. A story once told cannot be undone, and I can read what you're telling me. It's so clear to see. Well, it's so easy. Look at you and I just know, but it's not easy to step aside and let you know. It's never easy to say a thing that might be a whole different story, whole different story now. It's a whole different story.
And we're back. You're listening to Generation Orange Radio. I don't have a good byline for this. I really wish I had thought of that through because it sounded like great, and then it was like, oh, crap. So before I went to break, we were talking about the Houston Dash and women's soccer and how awesome all of that is. And now we're going to talk about something less awesome. No, I'm just kidding. Now we're going to talk about Edson's not had a good last week or so, 2 weeks really, related to RGV. But we're going to go ahead and go right into the RGV Express. So Edson, what's coming up this week? What's been on y'all's agenda the last couple of weeks? What have y'all been talking about? Why should people tune in that are Dynamo fans, Dash fans?
So for the last couple of weeks, we've been talking about these whole different misunderstandings, arguments between RGVFC fans and Dynamo fans regarding as to how RGVFC should be run. Do we think that, are we getting the short end of the stick? And other things. Obviously, we also talked about last week. Talked about the World Cup in a separate little special edition. We've been talking about the past games that we've had shutouts, but we haven't really been generating up in the attack goals. So we've been drawing a lot. Yesterday, they played against Real Monarchs away at Salt Lake City, and pretty much with a patched up team. And they lost.
Tell me how you really feel, Edson.
One of the things I do want to talk about is that I'm getting tired. I'm getting exhausted. This whole being in the middle of this argument is exhausting for me.
Absolutely.
Because not only, like I said on Twitter, I'm part of the voice for the Dynamo fans with this show, but I'm also the voice of the RGV fans with down in the valley, and so I'm kind of stuck in a pickle here. Like I get both sides of the argument. Like, okay, who's right? And
there is no right. That's what you learn. There is no right. There's two sides to the story, and both sides have valid points. And that's the struggle.
Yeah, and trying to get. I think the problem is that between RGV and the Dynamo, it's kind of like our current political system right now, where both sides kind of for the most part, want to refuse to see each other's views.
Absolutely.
And so that's why we have this discord. No pun intended. Yeah. This discord between both fan bases.
Yeah.
Where the Dynamo fans really some people have the tendency of acting like, oh well, you stay in your place, RGV, and the RGV fans are going into this whole like, oh well, we want independence now.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Yeah. So I think neither side helps the other. And so I think this is going to be a slow process, a slow battle, but I think we need to, at the end, we both teams, whether Dynamo or the RGV, need to work together, because in the end, this relationship, in theory, should help out both teams, whereas necessary. Mm-hmm. But if neither side if both sides are reluctant to speak with each other and kind of get into some sort of compromise as to how things should be run, then we're not going to get anywhere, and then it's going to be a failure on both ends.
Absolutely.
It's going to be a failure
which is where we're at right now. Just so it's clear, that's where we're at right now. Neither side has been willing to come to the table to compromise, and as a result, we are in a failure situation.
Yes.
I'm just clarifying for
definitely. You. And so going into that, yesterday's match really did not help.
No, absolutely
with this relationship, because as you all know, we've lost like 5 starters that were called up for Open Cup. That's going to happen tomorrow. And so, like I said, our starting 11 was patched up. Obviously, we had Nico Cordy on goal. He had Bryce Marion playing in the right back position, Robert Castellanos and Kyle Adams.
By the way, future of the Dynamo right there at the right back position.
And Kyle Adams in the center back position. Sheldon Sullivan playing left back. Jorginho James back on the starting 11. Nico Perea, Zach Wright, Pablo Aguilar, Chuy Enriquez, and Jordan Jones. Mm-hmm. Now, on paper, it doesn't, the starting 11 isn't really that bad.
Yeah.
But the fact is that we've lost 5 main starters.
Yeah.
Kind of doesn't help the chemistry of
Tell
this
me
team.
about it. I'm well aware about losing starters due to some unforeseen circumstance. I know all about that.
6 defenders out on the injury report. Just want to say, RGV fans, I get it. But at the same time, I also don't really care right now.
But that's the problem. I do care. I'm sad that you guys are struggling. I want to see you guys improve. But at the same time, I'm seeing my team struggle more right now with the losses they've had to deal with and they've had to incur. And there's not a comfortable path forward. Somebody's going to have to take the hit. And because of the relationship, it's just not going to be the Dynamo. It's not that I want RGV to suffer, but there's no other option for the Dynamo at this current time.
So what do you think is the difference? Like, for example, other USL teams.
They don't have 6 defenders on the injury report.
Last year, they did not have 6 defenders.
We didn't
on
have the same depth last year that we have this year, though, either.
So it's depth.
It's depth. And it's also that.
What about vision of the organization? Because you take a look at teams like New York Red Bulls 2, which is literally an MLS 2 team.
Yeah.
Swole Park Rangers, Real Monarchs, Reno 1868, and 3 out of those 4 teams have either won the league or have been very close to winning it.
So you want my honest answer? It's that the team controls both the business and the technical side. That's your difference.
So this hybrid, what you're saying is that this hybrid relationship, instead of being the best of both worlds, it's become the worst of both worlds?
Unfortunately, yes. It can work. I mean, we've seen it work with the Rockets and the Vipers. So we know that type of relationship can work. The problem is with the Vipers and the Rockets, the reason why it works is because they're in a development league. That is literally the whole purpose of that league, is to develop NBA caliber players. The purpose of USL is not to develop players for MLS. It is to field a competitive league. So I hope that what gets addressed in this upcoming next couple of seasons with USL is that they create that third tier for U.S. soccer that's supposed to be the development league for MLS clubs, which is why it's going to be primarily MLS clubs and lower division, lower tier teams. The problem is you're trying to partner those teams, those types of clubs, with these independent clubs like your San Antonio FC, your
Charlotte
Independence, your Charleston Battery, your and the list goes on and on. I mean, those are just the 3 I think of off the top of my head. But FC Cincinnati is another one.
Sacramento
Republic's another one. Nashville FC is another one. I mean, these teams that are aspiring to be MLS teams, which is good.
So you have in the USL this sharp contrast in the spectrum.
Very much.
And that doesn't really help the competitiveness of this league.
And keep in mind, the Dynamo know how to run teams, how to run reserve teams. Their reserve league team was one of the best year in and year out when Dom was the coach. Now that's a big.
Try again, Callo.
Oh, is he trying to call in?
Yeah. Apparently on the.
Oh, we timed it well. He's calling in for the RGV segment. This is perfect.
Yeah.
So Callo's going to throw the gauntlet down. He had a comment earlier that was just, it literally put a smile on my face. And it's not because like it was harsh, but it was because it was real and it was honest and it was true. And, I need to unmute him. That might have not helped either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Callo, go ahead and try again. But yeah, I feel that like this relationship has been, I don't think it was well thought out.
I think it was. I think the problem is that, and we talked about this before on down in the RGV or down in the Valley. The big issue really is how the team was marketed from the beginning. The reason the Vipers work as an organization.
All right.
Go ahead and answer. The reason the Vipers work as an organization. Hey, Callo, can you hear us?
Hello.
Hey, Callo. Well, that must be right.
Hey.
So I can mute 4. So, Callo, give me just a second. We're going to finish up what we're talking about, and then we'll bring you in. But it was marketed differently, right? It was marketed to be a competitive championship caliber team, and it was for the first season, and fans latched onto that idea, and now it's the future of the Dynamo. It's that development team, And fans don't like it because they've gotten used to that taste of championship caliber, and it's like you're not getting anywhere close to that.
And in the beginning of the season, it didn't help that Jerson, the very first thing he said is, if we don't win the championship, it's a failure.
Exactly. But you know what? He has to say that, because if he comes in and says, well, we don't have a chance of winning the championship this year, we're just a development team, fans are going to kick him out, right? That's just the fan base down there. They have gotten the taste of that championship caliber, and they want nothing else. That is exactly right. They've tasted that nirvana, that euphoria of being very close to the championship, and that's all they're going to settle for going forward. Anyway, so Callow had something he wanted to say. Callow, you can go ahead and chime in now.
The floor is yours.
Oh, okay, so basically I think it's straight fan ignorance to think that they have a right to the Dynamo players or the RGB players. Like, to be honest, they knew from the start that RGV was going to be a developmental team. It was always the agreement.
Well, it was, but I'm gonna defend RGV fans
Going
here.
back to my post, or my position. I mean, take a look. New York Red Bulls 2.
Well, but it's
Snow
not.
Park Rangers. Those are also developmental teams, but that does not
They're not
impede
crap.
them.
They're not crap.
Does not impede them to win the league like New York Red Bulls 2 have done.
But and Callow, to also emphasize that point as well that Edson's making here, that he just dabbed on you, by the way. It doesn't matter the quality of the team. What matters is how the team was marketed to fans from the onset. And I as someone in the industry that I'm in, perception can make or break everything, especially sports teams. And the perception coming in was the expectation that was set was this is going to be a team that's going to be competitive for the championship year in and year out. Fans were even willing to give give RGV one down season to collect themselves and get back to that level. Unfortunately, when you continue to struggle, and the Dynamo did the same thing and continued to struggle, you lose a lot of your fans that are diehards that believe that the team should be better than they are. And whether that's the ineptitude of front offices, whether that's the ineptitude of marketing departments, whether that's the ineptitude of the players on the pitch, the staff, technical staff as the case may be, whatever may be the root cause of it really doesn't matter, because it's the organization as a whole that is taking the hit, and it's taking a hit from a public publicity, public affairs standpoint. But with that being said, I think Callow's point is valid, though, which is RGV fans do need to remember to some extent that RGV as a club and RGV players would not be RGV players, and the club would not be RGV club without the Dynamo intervention and involvement. The Dynamo do the scouting for RGV. They do not scout their own players. That being the case, does that make them Dynamo players, or does that make them RGV players? I think that's the point that Callow's trying to make. These are players that the Dynamo have done the legwork for. RGV is literally sucking on the tit of the Dynamo scouting and the Dynamo front office.
Yeah, that was my point in Discord. I'm not trying to say that RGB can't exist in USL alone. RGB absolutely can. But as they exist now, they have the Dynamo organization doing everything for them.
But is it really because the RGB wants it like that, or is it because the Dynamo won't let them have a little bit?
You tell me. You asked that question to Bert Garcia, and you let me know what his answer is.
From what this is a preliminary statement from what I've heard from coming out of front office, their hands are tied.
Well, it's because technical control is handled by the Dynamo.
Now, Callow, do you? So you're saying you believe that technically RGV is an MLS2 team by the way it is run, and not necessarily like a hybrid like we were told to believe it was going to be?
I believe, yes, it's taken more of a role of an MLS2 team. And unfortunately, it's come out more so this season due to the amount of injuries we've had with the Dynamo.
Absolutely. You know, and the hybrid thing, people have to remember the hybrid thing, all that meant, it didn't mean that RGV was going to have technical control of any level. All it meant was that RGV had control of business, day-to-day operations, and Dynamo had control over technical, including staff, including formations, including tactics, including game day stuff. And RGV,
that's the only way it works.
Correct.
If you add a USL and an MLS team together, that's the only way it works.
Correct. And so, but the point I'm trying to make is that the expectation that was somehow set was that RGV would have some say and some control over player movement, some say and some control over player scouting, who comes in, what formation they run, what tactics they use. Dynamo have 100% of control over that, and that was never in question. I mean, it was even said in Dynamo, in Dynamo releases consistently that this is how it was going to be run. RGV agreed to that. It wasn't like the Dynamo ran roughshod over them. Bert Garcia went into this knowing full well how this was going to be run. Now he's getting the flack publicly because he's the face of the organization from a business standpoint. He doesn't like it, so he's going to be willing to put out the statement that, our hands are tied. That's correct. Their hands are tied. It does come back on the Dynamo in terms of being able to control that franchise, but they also have the control to be able to say, we want it to be a development team and get over it. And that's exactly what we're seeing right now. That's how they're going to run it. Doesn't matter how much RGV fans whine and cry about it, and I'm sorry, it's the truth. The Dynamo don't really care, and it's not they don't care about the fans. It's that they need a development team. They don't need a team that's competitive in USL. The latter does not benefit them. The latter does not benefit them. The former does. It is always going to be about what provides the biggest benefit to the Dynamo as an organization, not to RGV as a city or RGV as a club, because it doesn't matter to the Dynamo. And I know that's Edson's biggest painful point, is that because the Dynamo don't care about that franchise in that way, that it hurts because he's a fan of that franchise, not of the Dynamo organization, but of the RGV as a franchise.
Now, if that were the case, wouldn't it have been easier, not only financial-wise and everything, to just have a two-team here in Houston?
You would think so, but I think part of it was, and the Dynamo mentioned this repeatedly, that they were looking to leverage the location of RGV to get into that market for the academy side of it, not strictly for the RGV Academy, but for the Dynamo Academy, to pull some of those players that are south of the border that maybe aren't being looked at by Liga MX clubs, but maybe can be potential players that can make their way into the Dynamo system. That's why they want.
Also, more on that, you don't want to fight your own market ever.
No.
There's no reason to. So RGV makes the most sense.
Yeah, and if you look at Seattle S2 doesn't play in the same place that Seattle plays.
They used to, and they moved to Tacoma. Correct,
because they realized it's not working doing it in Seattle. That's the reality of it. Portland does the same thing. They don't play in the same stadium. And while they're in the same city, those cities are vastly different than Houston. Houston is kind of a weird amalgamation of so many different things. And to be fair, they're not going to play in they wouldn't play in BBVA Compass Stadium. That's an expensive stadium for them to try to fill any amount of seats in. They're not going to play at HSP. There's not a stadium there for them to play at. Where would they play here in Houston? They're not playing at U of H.
More likely, the only place they could get away with it is the new rugby stadium when it's built.
When it's built, but that was, this
was way before.
That was 3 or 4 years ago now, and we're still a year and a half out before that finishes being built.
So DB, yes, I think Sean touched upon that right now. He asked, does an RGV also expand the Dynamo scouting territory?
It does. To some extent, yes, but the Dynamo's scouting would have been there regardless. It's not the scouting territory, but it's the perception that we have a club here, that you can come into the club itself. You can come into this organization and feel like you're still connected. It's more the marketing to those players in that area, more so than it is about having the scouting for those players in that area. Because the Dynamo, and especially Nick Calba, and especially James Clarkson, and especially Matt Jordan, have a network of contacts that reach far beyond the youth level of U.S. soccer, that are capable of finding those young players that are capable enough to be able to bring into the system.
Well, it's close enough to the border to where it just says, hey, this is obtainable.
Exactly.
If it's not working for you and your country, come over here.
Don't build the wall. I made Edson smile. Got him away from that anger.
I'm trying so hard right now.
I know you are. Callow, do you have anything else to add before we go ahead and call this segment and move on so that Edson can take a deep breath and not vent all the steam coming out of his ears?
No, I'm good. Sorry, Edson.
It's all right, Callow. All opinions are welcome.
Even when they're wrong. No, I'm just kidding. I appreciate, Callow, your call. I appreciate your forethought to have a very honest opinion about it and to not sugarcoat it. I think that there are times when that is useful, and I do think that those types of things need to be had right now. I do wish that more of both sides would come together and actually talk instead of, I'm pissed off, leave me alone. I'm looking at you, Edson, right now. Be willing to approach the subject and understand that there are reasons that the Dynamo are doing things the way they're.
It's not that. It's just the fact that I've been doing this for so long. Is like, it's all falling on deaf ears. Like, you know what? I can only.
You want to do something about it.
Yeah.
You want to because you hear so much of it from both sides, but you also understand your hands are just as tied as anybody else's. You feel like the weight of the world has fallen on your shoulders to make it better, and you can't do anything about it. Yeah, no, I know. I've been there. I have been there. When the Dynamo struggled in 2010, I was right there. Trust me. With that being said, thank you, Callow, again for your call. We really do appreciate it, man. Have a good evening. And I think we'll actually use this opportunity to go to a break, and then when we come back, we'll just finish out the show. We've got plenty more to talk about. He actually hung up. That's awesome, Callow. You're the best. When we come back, we'll talk World Cup. Let's get into some fun stuff. We'll talk World Cup. We made our predictions on Down in the Valley last week. We should run through those actually and to kind of talk about them a little bit.
Sure.
Especially in light of what was it Harry that said it earlier today about Mexico?
Yeah.
We'll talk about that.
Which something interesting came up during these couple of hours about Mexico.
Oh, nice. So we will talk about that when we get back from break. Again, this is going to become World Cup 2018 edition of Generation Orange Radio.
So, having said that, this is Callow, and you're listening to Generation Orange. And having said that,
we should have really had him just record that before we should have him.
That's exactly what Blues fans said. It was like he should have signed off. All right, guys, we'll be back.
You paint me red in this light that isn't mine, finding every reason you can find to question my love. Remember that it's not me, I was never the one who broke your heart. We both know I've been gentle from the start. So though the questions keep on coming this time, you know that I'll listen, you know I'll be patient with you, you're my baby. Maybe this time you'll know you can trust me, you'll know I'll be faithful to you, you're my baby. I was never cheating, you connected dots that weren't there. You gave attention to the thoughts I never wear. It's not my style, even though it's so clear to me. You shouldn't base the future on the past. I know you really want this thing to last. So though the questions keep on coming this time, you know that I'll listen, you know I'll be patient with you, you're my baby. Maybe this time you'll know you can trust me, you'll know I'll be faithful to you, you're my baby. I don't wanna fight now, you're barking, you bite now, to prove that I'm right now, that you lost your sight now. I'm holding it tight now, can't see through the night now, to show you my light now, to paint these walls white now. I don't wanna fight now, you're barking, you bite now, to prove that I'm right. sight now. I'm holding it tight now. Can't see through the night. How to show you my light now. To paint these walls white now. So though the questions keep on coming this time, you know that I'll listen. You know I'll be patient with you, you're my baby. Maybe this time you'll know you can trust me. You'll know I'll be faithful. So though the questions keep on coming this time, you know that I'll listen. You know I'll be patient with you, you're my baby. Maybe this time you'll know you can trust me. You'll know I'll be faithful to you, you're my baby. 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 I don't wanna fight now. You're barking, you bite now. To prove that I'm right now. That you've lost your sight now. I'm holding it tight now. Can't see through the night. How to show you my light now. To paint these walls white now.
And we're back. This is Generation Orange Radio. All opinions expressed by Callow are solely Callow's own opinions. They do not represent the opinions of anyone on this show.
Please don't shoot the messenger.
That's right. His name is not Edson Ochoa. It's Callow.
That is my alter ego. And I used a voice changer.
Trollo.
And I used a voice changer so that way people wouldn't identify me. So thank you, Sean.
That was a very impressive voice changer, by the way, Edson. I just got to give you credit. And the fact that you went back and forth with yourself is also very impressive.
Hey,
it's not easy to do.
If I can't be a ventriloquist, at least I can use technology.
So Blue sent you a nice USL attendance tracker for week 12.
Oh, is it from what's his name? Hold on. Let me see.
I don't know. It's a beautiful graphic, though. It's pretty impressive.
It was probably from that Rowdy's fan.
Yeah. All right. So okay. So enough talking about crap. And what?
What?
And what?
What do you mean?
You said penalty.
No. It's like Mike Pendleton. That's the name of it.
Oh, Pendleton. Oh, I thought I was like penalty. What are you talking about? Okay. Yeah. So before we went to break, we said we were going to do two things. We were going to talk about the World Cup. Actually, it might have been it. We were going to talk about World Cup and then close it out because we've only got like 10 minutes or 15 minutes at this point. So,
the World Cup is in 9 days, guys. Where's the hype? Oh, wait, I forgot. You guys didn't make it to the World Cup.
You guys? What is this? What is this crap? Get out of here, Edson.
Don't worry. I'm not supporting Mexico in this World Cup either.
Who are you supporting?
I'm probably Colombia.
Okay, I can buy into that. So on Thursday, no, it was Wednesday. On Wednesday, the guys from down in the valley, including Ray, Jacob,
Cesar,
you, and then me as well, all gave our predictions for this World Cup. And there is something very, very harsh on the line here for the loser. The loser, if it's one of the five RGV guys, four RGV guys, you say, okay, yeah, 4 RGV guys, they have to wear a San Antonio scarf and it's behind Edson right now, even though you can't see it because the camera's not on, but we've got one. They have to wear the San Antonio scarf to the next RGV home match, and they have to make sure they get a picture taken wearing it in the stadium at the match.
And then retweeted by Jeff Strong.
Because we know once something is retweeted by Jeff Strong, it is retweeted by everyone. And then if I lose, which is just not happening, but just in case it does happen, there's some fluke. I'm going to call it rigged on the system anyways. But in case it happens, I will, and I have committed to this, I will wear an FC Dallas shirt to the FC Dallas versus Houston match here in Houston, and I will take a picture, and I will have it retweeted by Jeff. It's not going to happen because I'm not going to lose. I'm telling you right now I'm not going to lose. But we want to run through our predictions real quick because it's just something we do because we are egomaniacs apparently. So
all right.
So let's run through Group A. Who's our predictions for Group A?
Your prediction for your Group A,
and we'll just run through just our predictions for this point.
Yeah, no. Russia and Egypt.
Russia and Egypt out of Group A.
Mine was Russia and Uruguay.
Russia and Uruguay. So we've got one difference between the two of us. All right, Group B.
You had, I had Portugal and Spain.
And I think that's a possibility.
And you had Spain and Portugal.
So it's the same, basically.
Yeah, but just...
Are we actually, I mean, does first and second place in this?
I think in some of them you did say, and this one you did say Spain would be first, Portugal would be second.
Okay, so I think we do need to take something into consideration for that. Maybe an extra point if you get the first right, and then an extra point if you get second right.
Yeah.
And then so Group C.
I had Peru and France. You had Peru and Denmark.
Okay. I feel like France is going to...
I'm sad about myself because I never made a Lord Bentner reference last week.
Yes. On that note, continuing on to Group D.
I had Argentina and Croatia. You had Nigeria and Argentina.
I did. There's no doubt in my mind Argentina makes it out of this. However, I do think Nigeria comes in first in this group, and everybody was shocked by that. But I just think people are going to be surprised. Group E.
You had Costa Rica and Brazil. Costa Rica getting first. I had the other way around. Brazil, Costa Rica.
So there are two groups at least that we see eye to eye on, which is good. It's just we reverse the order. Okay, Group F.
I had Germany and Sweden. You had Germany and Mexico.
Correct. Can you say that second one for me real quick?
Germany and Mexico.
Okay, I thought that was right. Okay, I thought I had picked Mexico, but when Cesar chimed in on Twitter, no, that was Ray. When Ray chimed in on Twitter that he waved like he had been the one to do Mexico, I was like, wait, I did Mexico too. Wait a second. Like,
yeah, he had Germany and Sweden.
Yeah, I was going to say I was the one who did Mexico. Nobody else went Mexico in that group, and I was like, I'll do it. There's no way they don't, and so now they're not going to make it. But that's okay. I'm okay with that either way. See, I'm a win. It's a win-win for me either way.
Wow.
Next.
All right. Group G, I had Belgium and Panama. You had Belgium and England.
And I think that's more likely than Belgium, Panama. I think you went Panama because it's Machado's team and you want to see them advance.
By the way, Cisco says ew on you wearing an FCD shirt.
Oh, no kidding. Don't worry, Cisco. It's not going to happen. I'm not going to lose.
Group H, you had Colombia and Japan. I had Colombia and Japan. Same order.
See, and that was the one that I felt like I went out on a severe limb with Japan there, and yet you followed along with me, so I was okay with that. And then Group H.
That was Group H.
Oh, that was Group H. And then our first and second place, basically the two teams in the final.
You had Germany and Belgium.
And you had?
I had Argentina and Brazil.
So you've already lost. Argentina is not even in the World Cup. I think there are valid points for both of those. Except Brazil hasn't been great recently. I mean, they've had a couple of good matches, but not great matches. They're not the Brazil of old. Germany's B team could start in this World Cup and beat almost every team. And Belgium is on an upswing, and I think that the pairing of, or the back line having Jan Vertonghen and Toby Alderweireld together, Alderweireld, I can't even pronounce right now, together. Coming from Tottenham, I'm a Tottenham fan. I can't help but not go for those two in this.
My question to you is, in regards to Germany, number one, do you agree with the decision that Manuel Neuer should start over Ter Stegen.
Right now, yes. But that's not to say he's going to start every match in this World Cup. I think there will be opportunities for Ter Stegen, and we'll just have to see how things shake out. But I do think Neuer is the better goalkeeper right now.
And number 2, do you believe that Neymar will be as very influential this World Cup for Brazil?
No, I don't. And that's why I don't have Brazil making the final. Marcelo, I think, will actually be their superstar. I don't think it will be Neymar. Neymar has his moments, and he's a great player. But I think at times he tends to fade from matches. And I actually said this last World Cup, too. He tends to fade from matches, and it's that reasoning that I think that he's just not a big stage player.
So saying this, so you obviously, with your prediction, saying that Germany will take it all.
Yes.
They will be the first team to break the Confederations curse.
To win the Confederations Cup and then subsequently win the World Cup in the same
Because remember,
cycle.
the Confederations curse says, oh, shut up, Instagram.
Oh, no, I know what it says. I'm well aware.
Okay.
But
That
Germany's
they don't
also
make
good enough to be able to do it, too.
Oh, I don't think anybody's denying,
I mean,
that.
let's be honest. It's freaking Germany right now. So, and you know, if you look at all the other teams, there are glaring weaknesses on every other team, and you look at Germany, and there's not really a true glaring weakness on Germany.
It's so compact. It's so team based
It
rather
is
than
very,
individual based.
very much so. Just imagine if the U.S. got to that level. I mean, you know, got to that point, and I think that's a possibility. But with that said,
oh, by the way, the Mexican national team spent last night partying with.
Of course they did.
Women of dubious nature.
Of course they did. That's how Mexico rolls, man.
Yeah, it was a
We're
big scandal.
8 days away from the World Cup.
Yeah,
It's
but
okay. If this
you
is happening during the World Cup and comes out, then we can talk. Until then, shut up.
But do you see any other team doing this?
No, because other teams' medias know better than to report it. But every team is doing it.
Oh, that is...
Every team is doing it. Are you kidding me? That is known as a thing that happens around the World Cup. Argentina, hold on. I'm going to throw this back at you. Argentina's federation came out with a guide for players and media to go into Russia and how to pick up women in Russia.
Can I have that booklet, please?
Not saying anything, but I'm just saying it's a South American federation. Or well, Mexico's not, but Argentina's a South American federation. Every South American federation does that type of thing. It's crazy, but it's the real. You know, it's real that they want to be able to tell their players, "Hey, go have a good time. Just know when it's time to play soccer. It's time to play soccer." I guarantee you, the Brazilian Federation did something very similar. And if they didn't do that, they're sending their players around with escorts walking around the streets of Russia so that their players don't go hook up with Russian ladies of the night, if you will.
Lady of the evening.
Exactly. I mean, you know, if you think Ronaldo's not walking around there eyeing the Russian women ahead of time to know who he wants to pick up, you've got to be kidding me. The guy is doing it.
Anyways, having said this, I think it's time to wrap it up. This went south really quick. Sorry, guys.
You said wrap it up, and the only thing that came to mind was a condom. So, I mean,
Generation Orange, brought to you by
Trojan man.
Also brought to you by FarmersOnly.com.
Oh man.
Anyway.
You just took it to a different place. No, that's great.
It's a good thing we're not at KTXF right now.
Oh man, Chris, my phone would be blowing up with Chris going, "What the are you talking about?" Yeah.
At least I made myself laugh.
Well, you know, sometimes you got to do that because nobody else will. So this week coming up, the Dynamo play not RGV. They play. You got me thrown off. They play.
I thought you were gonna say Argentina.
They play North Texas Rayados.
I'll be there tomorrow.
On Wednesday tomorrow. And they play
Colorado Rapids
on Saturday at BBVA, which I will be at that match, by the way. And if you happen to, by the way, if you're listening and you happen to have an extra ticket available, if you're not going to that match, Cisco, I'm kind of looking at you. Let me know. I got somebody that would love to use that ticket. And that goes to everybody else, too. If you don't have anybody using one of your tickets or all your tickets or whatever, let me know. I will find people to put butts in your seats.
Yeah. And if anybody going forward has that problem where you don't know who might need it, we can go ahead and lay it out on social media.
Absolutely, yeah. Hit us up on Twitter at Gen Orange Radio if you ever have extra tickets or tickets you're not using, and we will be happy to connect you with someone who will gladly take those tickets off you. Bear in mind when I say that I'm not talking about people purchasing those seats, but people getting them for free. You're donating them to a good cause, usually people that don't have the money to buy another ticket. Usually college kids, just so it's clear.
Cisco says you can have it.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Cisco. Reagan appreciates that. So it is 3 minutes till 9, so let's go ahead and close up shop for the evening. I want to say this real quick, that if you know of anybody that needs a business website, or a website in general, please let me know. I run a company with a good friend of mine, Embrace Fusion. We provide the website for Down in the Valley, and soon the website for Generation Orange, when I finally have a time to sit down in front of my computer and actually build one out with Edson's help for graphics, because he's good at that thing, and I'm not as good at graphics as he is. So yeah, if you know of anybody that needs a business website, please let me know, and I'll be happy to reach out to them and hook them up with a really good deal. You're not going to find it cheaper than us, and we do our own hosting, so you don't have to pay for separate hosting costs, and we also will gladly register your domain, so we save you a lot of money that way. With that said, thank you for tuning in to Generation Orange. Again, you can follow us on Twitter at Gen Orange Radio. That's G-E, oh man, I can't speak, at G-E-N Orange, the color orange, radio, you know, that thing you turn on and off to listen to music in your car.
We're in the 18th,
the 18th century. They had radios back then. No, you actually don't turn it on and off in your car, because either it turns itself on and off, or you're listening to your phone, not actually listening to the radio. But anyways, that's the Twitter handle. We will eventually get a Facebook for this thing, eventually when we get a website up and running. Also, if you guys want to hit us up during the show via email, it's Sean at letstalk.soccer and Edson at letstalk.soccer, and those go directly into our emails. So feel free to shoot us a line during the show. Again, thank you guys for tuning in. It was a fantastic show. Even if Edson did have a bit of frustration there during the RGV segment, I think it was worthwhile. Thank you, Callow. Thank you, Blues fan, both of you guys for calling in. That was fantastic, and I think you both brought brilliant points tonight. And guys, we look forward to it again next week. Stay forever orange, and
we are Toros.
And dash TF on.
Of course.
I need some music to tune me out, dude. Come on, dude, I was waiting for that transition like we were done. It was great. Where's my music? And then you got this slow, depressing start to the music. Awesome.
Thank you.